Did you know that as a Washington State public employee, you could be sitting on a gold mine of benefits that you don't know about? Well, in today's video, we're going to go through some of the key benefits that I've seen public employees in Washington have access to. Hey there, public employees. My name is Seth Deal. I'm a financial advisor who also happens to be a CPA, and I'm also a former city employee. And I absolutely love helping public employees in Washington plan for retirement and their financial futures. In today's video, we're going to get into some of those juicy benefits that you have access to and that I want to make sure you are maximizing for your retirement plan. One of the most widely known but often overlooked benefits that public employees in Washington have access to is the Deferred Compensation Program, which is a 457B account that allows you to save beyond your pension for retirement. I absolutely love the 457B for a couple of reasons. First is that you can access those funds at any time once you are no longer working for the employer that you are contributing to the 457B with. So let's say you want to retire at 55 and you aren't sure if your pension will be sufficient to cover all of your expenses in retirement. The great thing about the 457B is that you can pull those funds out once you've retired before 59 and a half without any penalties. There are some ways around it with other retirement plans, such as a 401k or an IRA. But the great thing about the 457B is that you don't have to worry about any of that. One of the best benefits of the 457B, that's actually a relatively new benefit, is that you should now have access to a Roth option through the 457B if you're on the DRS Voya DCP. If you're at another agency, such as the city of Seattle or Pierce County or another agency, be sure to look into whether you have access to a Roth option. One of the key components of saving for retirement that I like to talk about to everyone that'll listen to me for that matter is that you want to have three buckets of savings in retirement. You want to have a pre-tax bucket, you want to have a tax-free bucket, and you want to have a taxable bucket. Right now, a lot of DCPs, and before the Roth option was available through DRS, only had access to the pre-tax savings bucket. So it's really important to look into whether you also have that after-tax option or Roth option through DCP. In a perfect world, you'd have pretty much equal buckets of savings of those three different buckets. However, it's never too late to start building up that tax-free and that taxable bucket. And just remember that your pension can be considered part of the pre-tax bucket because when you receive it, it'll be taxed at ordinary income rates. So that pre-tax bucket is always taxed at ordinary income rates. Your after-tax bucket is tax-free, meaning you don't have to pay tax into it. You pay tax when you put it in, but you don't have to pay tax on it or any of the growth. And then your taxable bucket is similar to the tax-free bucket, except there are less restrictions, but when you go to pull that money out, you're potentially going to be subject to a capital gains tax depending on your income level. However, those three buckets are incredibly important to be saving. The next component or the next benefit that you have access to in retirement are medical benefits through PEB. PEB provides great medical benefits for retirees regardless of when you retire. If you are eligible for PEB benefits through your employer, be sure to look at those as an option. Another health benefit that many have access to are HSAs or health savings accounts. Health savings accounts are a great option for building up that tax-free bucket in retirement. One of the biggest mistakes I see with health savings accounts is not investing those funds that you're not using. You want to make sure you are investing those funds for long-term growth beyond any cash minimums. One of the other big tips with HSAs that I try to tell everyone that I talk about is if you can pay for your current medical expenses out of pocket and save those reimbursements for later years, you want to do that. In other words, you can submit for reimbursement from an HSA at any point in time in the future. So you could have spent money 10 years ago, and now today you're wanting to get reimbursed for it. And you can do that completely tax-free. There is no annual clock like we see with a MERP or an FSA or some other form of medical savings vehicle. So it's really important we can submit for HSAs. So at any point in the future, be sure to save your receipts, save reports from your medical insurance company each year, and then submit for those at a later date. But be sure you've got those funds invested for long-term growth. Oftentimes, when you go to retire, you have the ability to cash out any vacation and sometimes a partial sick leave cash out. You want to be pretty thoughtful about how you cash that leave out. One of the strategies that I've employed with some of my clients and recommended to some of my clients is to make sure you're maximizing your DCP contributions in that retirement year with your annual leave cash out. I've seen really large leave cash outs, and one of the ways you can control your tax bill with those leave cash outs is to ensure you're maxing out your deferred compensation when you go to cash that out. If you're already maxing it out, if you have access to an HSA, make sure that's also maxed out. So we want to max out any pre-tax retirement vehicle we have when we go to cash that leave out. But be sure to factor those in as you're planning, so that way you can plan for that extra cash that might come in. Be sure to look into any policies that your employer may have on leave cash outs. And then once you do retire, definitely just make sure the right amount was cashed out. All right, so I'm all about action items. So let's get into what are some specific action items that we can take today to get ready for retirement. So our first is get a pension estimate. Reach out to DRS or a financial advisor who works with those pension plans, and they can get you an estimate on what you might expect from your pension. Also, remember, DCP has an incredible amount of flexibility. Don't lose that flexibility by rolling it over to an IRA before you're 59 and a half. Keep that money in the 457B deferred compensation plan until at least you're 59 and a half. Rolling it over at 59 and a half to an IRA can oftentimes make a lot of sense. However, you definitely don't want to do that before 59 and a half. Also, look into your employer's cash leave policies. So that way, when you retire, you can know exactly what to expect when you cash out that leave. And last but not least, start planning for health insurance. Know what those expected costs are going to be and maximize your HSA if you can. I see folks making a lot of mistakes when planning their financial futures. I've put a guide together, the link is in the description, going over those common mistakes that I see each day as a financial advisor and how you can avoid those. If you ever want to learn more about potentially working together, feel free to go to lifefocusadvisors.com. Until the next video, thank you.